KFAN.
Never miss your chance to know what the latest sports news is in town, chances to win tickets, and knowing what's going on with all your favorite KFAN shows. Follow KFAN 1003 on all of our social channels like Instagram, TikTok, and X now. Stay connected and follow the sports leader, KFAN.
NBA playoff action, I think it was last night. I just saw the replay of the Wembanyama fall to the court. Man, is that ever ugly? Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, no.
Look at it. Is it on? You have the same thing I have on right now? They showed it like 13, 14 times. They probably aren't going to show it again now. He hits face plants, face first, and his jaw on the side of his head just bounces off that hardwood floor. Man, that's ugly. And he is in the concussion protocol. According to NBA guidelines, players cannot return to full participation for 48 hours after the injury, but it's an ugly, nasty spill. Not good. Couple 13-14 past time common. He's 10 to beat the legendary Mark Rosen is somewhere in Italy having let me guess, tonight he'll have the greatest meal he's ever had, because last night he had the greatest meal he ever had. The night before he had the greatest meal. Every meal is topping the other one. And if you'd like to know how Mark's doing in Italy, and all you have to do is follow him on Twitter, and he will let you know.
I just saw the fall. What was he doing?
I don't even understand. I don't either.
He just fell without putting his hands down.
Yeah.
It's because he was trying to make a pass.
Yeah, it was.
It almost looked like he got knocked out right away.
Well, that's what I thought. I mean, he hits. I mean, that's not a. You'll be okay. Just eat some dirt and rub a little Robitussin on it. It ain't that kind of a fall. It's vicious. Wild tonight, right? Wolves tomorrow night. Do I have it right?
8:50 start tonight.
8:50.
Extended pregame with Fallness and Micheletti at 7.
Yeah. Did you know that Micheletti got nominated for PST? Did you hear?
I think I did hear. Yes.
He called Quinnesota one of the top 5 hockey players of all time.
You've got to be kidding me.
Of all time.
All time. I had several people say of all time, not just in wild history or recent or defensemen, top 5 player of all time. Now, when you think of all the great players that have played, I'll go back to my guy, Gordie Howe. There's Bobby Orr. There's the great one, Wayne Gretzky. I got 3 that I'm pretty confident most people would say. And Quinnesota's a hell of a player. I don't think anybody denies that. But I would think those 3 for sure are would be ranked higher than an all-time list than Quinnesota. And there's probably a couple of others too, I would think. But maybe you agree with Micheletti.
I don't agree, but I will say this. I do think he has a skill set that we haven't seen on the blue line before.
Okay.
Now, I did not watch Bobby Orr play, but since I've been put on this earth and watching hockey, I don't know if I've seen a defenseman play like him.
Okay.
He can do things that others have not been able to do. But, he's also not great defensively, which is going to hold him back in talking about top 5 conversation. As an offensive defenseman, now, I will say he probably needs to score more. But in terms of just a flat-out playmaker and making others better, it's hard to argue against him in terms of all-time defensemen.
Breaking news, at the urging of Pat Micheletti, the state of Minnesota has renamed it Lake Quinnetonka. Lake Quinnetonka.
Maury Amsterdam guy?
No, I wrote that myself. Kidding. Do I get any kind of credit?
Well, I mean, that was a Maury Amsterdam type joke.
Well, I've learned from the best. I learned from those play on words ones that he uses all the time.
I mean, he is electric.
Maury Amsterdam guy?
Well, his jokes are electric. Yeah, okay. There's no doubt about that. Quinnetonka, he does moves at the blue line that I haven't seen. There are so many spots where every other defenseman in the National Hockey League I'm in a bad spot here. I'm going to dump the puck back into the corner so I don't turn the puck over. Right. Whereas Quinn he holds on to the puck or near the blue line in risky spots more than anybody and gets out of it. He's like Houdini sometimes. And even Cale Makar, who's probably the best defenseman in hockey, I don't think can do some of the things Quinn can do offensively in that regard. No, Cale can shoot better. He's a better goal scorer. But in terms of just puck handling and escaping and patience, I've never seen anyone like Quinn Hughes.
At the urging of Pat Micheletti, the city council of the western suburb of Minnetrista is renaming it Quinnetrista. They will now be known as Quinnetrista. Play this game.
Can you come up with any? There's a lot with the MINN.
Quinnapolis.
Quinniapolis?
Minneapolis. Quinniapolis. They've named, they were going to do it, except they play in St. Paul. So that's why they won't do it. But Quinniapolis would be another one. We can play this game all day long if you want to. Be all day long if you'd want. Most people would say, let's move on from that. Your thoughts tonight on the game? I think when we talked, you asked me in 534, who do you think has a better chance? Who do you think has a better chance to win game 2? You seem to think you like the Stars' chances tonight at.
I wouldn't say that.
No?
I don't know if I can make it I would feel more comfortable and more confident if Matt Zuccarello specifically, and even Trenyon was in the lineup. I have a hard time believing they're both going to be in tonight. But, there's a drop-off when you go from those two to Bobby Brink to, if they're both out, Nico Sturm enters the lineup tonight. You did see in Dallas that Kirill Kaprizov all of a sudden didn't have his buddy with him, didn't have that helper, and he struggles to find someone who can give him some space a little bit more in the offensive zone. And then when Kaprizov can't get going, then all of a sudden you're not a 2-line scoring team anymore. You're a 1-line scoring team. And they obviously struggle with their line combinations. So I can't really go all. I think the Wild should, even without those two, you do have home ice. You should be able to get your matchups a little bit more. You can put your best defenseman out against Wyatt Johnston, and you can put Joel Eriksson Ek out against Wyatt Johnston in that line. I would think you might see a little bit more of a lower scoring game. Maybe I would think Dallas is going to be even more defensive tonight. I feel like whenever they play at Minnesota, they play kind of a defensive shell and just keep everything to the outside. So it might have to be a goaltender duel tonight. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Volstead versus Ottinger, and the Wild win 2-1.
Quack, quack. Quack, quack.
Oh my God.
We saw the Ottinger takeover game.
Yep.
Tonight is Volstead takeover game.
Here's what I will say. I think this is probably perfectly clear to most people listening that I'm not paying as close attention to the National Hockey League in general, and specifically the Minnesota Wild, as I once did. But with the way you talked about it yesterday after when Zuccarello missed game 2, I know you didn't say this, but I have this feeling that Zuccarello, I know everybody thinks of Kaprizov and Quinnesota, Quinnetonka, Quinnetrista. But it seems like Zuccarello might be the most important guy on the team.
No, he's not the most important guy.
Well, I don't mean but what I mean is him missing takes a lot away from the club is the way it seemed to me. The way,
I would say like on this show,
Kaprizov is lost without him.
I'd say on this show, you're Kaprizov, I'm Zuccarello. And when I miss, all of a sudden you got to play with like a Vladimir Tarasenko type producer. And it just has an impact and effect on how you perform on the air. I've heard.
Okay.
I'm not listening.
Really?
Zuccarello, I would say, is important to Kaprizov's success, and he's important to the power play's success because he can make some passes that free up other teammates that other than Quinn Hughes, not a lot of guys can make.
Well, it was out and they had to. Is connoiter a word? They had to connoiter 3 lines because he was out. I mean, they had to change everything we lost. I think Gad Zooks is the most important player in the club. That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm going to go with. That's what I'm going to.
Well, and Dallas is without one of their top 6 forwards too, in Rupe Hintz. So I don't like to sit here and go, "Oh, what if we really need Matt Zuccarello?" Well, the other team's missing a top player too.
Minneapolis City Council has said they are now changing the name to... Hold on. Lost it here. Quinnihaha Falls. Quinnihaha Falls is going to be the name. We're naming everything after him. And some people are even going with... in a joint resolution, the city of St. Paul and Minneapolis are renaming it the Quinn Cities. The Quinn Cities.
Remember before the show when you thought you had nothing today? I mean, look what you just produced.
That's it. Just,
that's just...
like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Pandora out of her box. What are the other ones I use? I always forget. A genie out of the bottle. Yes. We'll break. We'll come back. But as we go to break, Tennessee has got a keyword for it.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword fun at KFAN.com now for a shot at winning. The keyword is fun. Enter now at KFAN.com. Carboni's Pizzeria wants to fuel your Game 3 playoff party this Thursday. Visit one of their 30-plus locations to enjoy delicious food, delicious pizza, and get ready for the playoff run. Find your nearest Carboni's today at carbonispizza.com.
Couple 13-14 past time common. He is Tennessee. We are here until 3. Uninformed. What else am I? Uninformed. Unprepared. Unlistenable. If you're looking for poised, polished, and professional, that's next at 3 o'clock. This is an athletic story. Jason Quick writes it. Its dateline was yesterday. Is today the 22nd?
Yes.
Yeah, so this was 21st. Blazers owner Tom Dundon doesn't care that others say he's cheap. At this time, it was the most important day of Thiago Splitter's coaching career. The Portland Trail Blazers were playing the opening round of the play-in tournament against the Phoenix Suns. Win, and the Blazers were in the playoffs. But instead of worrying about defensive strategy or his rotation, Splitter was worried about the team masseuse. By order of new owner Tom Dundon, all members of the Blazers traveling party, with the exception of players and coaches, had to check out of their hotel at 12:30 p.m. in an effort to avoid late checkout fees.
You've got to be kidding me.
Splitter, the team's interim head coach, had just heard an earful from the masseuse, who had nowhere to provide treatment for the players ahead of that night's game. And she wasn't the only one complaining. Splitter eventually called a confidant and vented his frustration. I told Splitter he can't be focused on this while he's about to coach his most important game, the person Splitter called told The Athletic. And he was like, but what if the masseuse decides that she doesn't want to do a good job because she's angry, and then she doesn't do a good job on, is it deny? That then it affects me too. To wit, the Blazers are the only NBA team in the playoffs who are not traveling their two-way players and moved to save money on hotels and food. First reported by the Rose Garden Report. Also, the team's traveling party of support staff was trimmed. The award-winning team photographer and digital reporter did not travel with the team for its playoff series in San Antonio. And as Splitter has done an admirable job as interim coach, he was thrust into the position before the season's second game when Chauncey Billups was arrested by the FBI, the CIA, the BBC, B.B. King. Doris Day, Max Busby, dig it, dig it, dig it. In a gambling probe, Dundon has conducted a phone book's worth of interviews with college and pro coaches, breaching the etiquette that sitting NBA coaches are usually afforded. If you've got the job, even if you've been appointed interim, right? Usually you're not bringing, you're sitting in your office putting the game plan together and there's other coaches coming, hey, I'm interviewing for your job, by the way. So that's what he's been interviewing coaches during the entire national basketball season. If this is the start of his ownership, you're going to have a wild ride back there, said a league source who has had several interactions with Dundon and was granted anonymity to speak freely about the NBA owner. For Dundon, a billionaire who made his money in the subprime auto loan business, this rollout of his business plan is familiar. When he bought the NHL's Carolina Hurricanes in 2017, he made several cost-cutting moves, including firing the team's broadcasters and skimping on the salaries of coach Rod Brindamore and his staff. Yet in the wake of those moves, the Hurricanes have become one of the NHL's elite teams. Armed with the confidence as approach works, Dundon sent out an edict to Blazers manager shortly after he and his investment team took over on March 31st after 81% of the $4.25 billion sale closed. Team source said the directive was, why are you wasting money? Let's think about this prudently. Let's make things like the traveling party be about who needed to be there, not it would be nice if they come. And what's really different, because what it says in the story, it's a culture shock, because for 38 years, the Blazers were owned by one of the richest men on the planet.
Yeah.
Paul Allen, not our Paul Allen, but the other Paul Allen. Allen famously lavished his players with rich contracts and with perks that few, if any, other NBA owners provided. While players practiced, their cars were washed and detailed in the parking lot. They were feted to lunches on his 413-foot private yacht, the Octopus, from which they were given helicopter tours over the Golden Gate Bridge. And for years, the Blazers flew to road games on Allen's private Boeing 757 jet, Blazer One, complete with satellite TV, a wet bar, and a master bedroom. So now it's just the opposite. And it appears Dundon does not care. Here's another team source. I think he thinks this is just the beginning. I think he thinks this is just what taking over franchises is, where you have to change things. He said he went through a lot of rough times in Carolina, but ultimately all people care about now is winning. So what I think is accurate is him being cheap as it relates to stuff that in the mind does not impact player performance. He sounds like he's one of the poll ads, right? He'd fit in right here. And then there are quotes where he says, they do quote him. Where's a quote from? There's a quote from Tom here somewhere, I thought. But here's just the number of somebody else, another league source. He's already established that he's very cheap. And I know he doesn't love Oregon and is concerned that it is a state that can't draw free agents. Well, with all due respect, you're not helping the cause of drawing free agents when you treat everyone like bleep there. When asked at his introductory news conference whether he cared if he was liked, he said, on the list of things I care about, it's lower. He doesn't care if you like him. His first month has shown just how low. I ought to tell you, I don't think he gives a rat's ass what's being said about him. Most owners care. They insulate themselves because they care very much about their image and profile. He doesn't give a bleep. He doesn't even flinch at this stuff. He is unapologetic. All he cares about is what is good for the team and what makes the team win, which means he's going to be okay making tough decisions. So if that means taking a public relations hit for requiring the support staff to check out of the hotel to escape paying late checkout fees, a source said the team ran the numbers and estimated it will save $1 million in the next year. That's $1 million that could go to bettering the player's experience. Now, when you phrase it that way, there's no way late fees add up to $1 million. Can it? It's 41 games on the road. I don't know, if you have
How many hotel rooms are you?
Well,
How much is the late fee?
That I don't know either. And then I would think the late fee, though, would only be like for the masseuse, because the players, if they're, aren't they Maybe if they're not leaving till late that evening, like let's say for instance they have a night game, checkouts at 11, they go to the hotel and they sleep, and they're not leaving the next day until 5 in the afternoon, which I don't know how travel schedules work in the NBA. That would mean all the players are probably going to hang in their rooms from 11 until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon before getting on the team bus to go to the airport. He's penny pinching is what he's doing.
Now, are they also staying at a Motel 8?
Well, I don't know about that.
That's the next step.
I would stay at the Motel 6 because they'd leave the light on for you there, but that's a whole nother story. We'll pause and come back. One more segment to go. The clock is gone. I want to know how many hours and how many minutes and how many seconds till the NBA draft. I'll try to find that, and we'll report back to you after this here on the Common Man program on the Fan.
Starts tomorrow, but you're officially on the clock now. Use the TalkBack feature in the iHeartRadio app and tell us your top 3 all-time Vikings draft selections for a chance to win tickets to the Miller Lite Vikings draft party at US Bank Stadium. Winners chosen every hour today. Full rules at KFAN.com. Keyword contest.
This is your home for National Football League coverage. We are the Fan. Worst all-sports radio station in the country, so says a former employee who was fired from here. Every draft is important, Tennessee, right? I mean, that's where you are supposed to build the foundation of your club. You draft what you hope are up-and-coming players that produce. You'd like them to produce immediately, but certainly like to see within a year or two developing into long-term foundational type players. It's impossible for any team to hit on every single draft pick every single year. It's been really tough for the Vikings. The past few years, it just hasn't worked well. As a matter of fact, they went into going into last season, they knew they needed immediate help on the interior of the offensive line, in the interior of the defensive line, and they weren't shy about going out and spending a boatload of money. They spent all sorts of dough to get a center and I think a guard and then a couple of inside pass rushers. And by all accounts, it just didn't work out. A lot of money spent. I don't know if you want to say it was wasted money, but a lot of money spent for not the kind of productivity you're hoping to get. Vikings have a boatload of draft picks this year. I don't know what the most draft picks a team has ever had. There are 7 rounds, so if you haven't traded any, I guess you're guaranteed 7 picks every year, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you'll trade a player to get picks from another team, or somebody desperately wants to move up to your slot, so you get a couple of picks in exchange, sometimes for the current draft, sometimes for in ensuing years. But Alec Lewis did a piece today. There's a paragraph that says,
in the modern 7-round draft era,
okay,
the 1997 Dolphins had 14
picks.
But back in the day, like in the 40s and 50s, the Steelers had 30 players they selected multiple drafts.
Well, they had, back then they had 17, 18, 20 rounds. I don't remember how many it was. I don't know what it used to be. They had round after round. Think of how much meat sauce would be excited about that. Do you think somebody would have said day 18 of the National Football League draft is the greatest day in sports? Because if they did it by day, that's how many they would have had. But Alec Lewis writes, to set the stage, here's perhaps the most under-discussed Vikings organizational factoid, a tidbit that should occupy headlines as much as the team's quarterback conundrum. Minnesota's roster currently contains 2 players who were drafted in the 2nd round, 3 who were drafted in the 3rd round, and 1 who was drafted in the 4th round. To summarize, 6 of the 61 players on the Vikings roster were selected in what is typically viewed as the meat of the draft, the fewest of any team in the NFL by a wide margin. Because the Vikings don't have middle round players developing into starters or depth options, they need their first rounders to become megastars, and they rely on undrafted free agent signings to play pivotal roles. Not to mention, the lack of explosiveness and productivity in these areas requires the coaching staff to continue relying on the perfect play calls at the right times. This was actually more than 1 paragraph. That's 2. Here's the 3rd. When you don't find starters in the middle rounds, everything else has to overextend. This doesn't prevent winning seasons. It does, however, limit the margin for error. And then I do feel as though it also, just for ensuing years, we talked about Brad Holmes, what he was quoted as saying in a pre-draft news conference in Detroit when they talked about best player available. He goes, that's the model we go after, because, we might not need a right tackle this year, but we might next year or the year after. So if the right tackle is the best player available, we're going to go with the right tackle. And then one more paragraph from Alex Peace. It says, contrast the Vikings roster makeup with that of successful teams such as the Eagles and Seahawks. More than 20 of their players were selected in the second, third, and fourth rounds, just 6 for the Vikings. More than 20 of their players were selected in the second, third, and fourth rounds. This is where they've landed high-impact contributors like Cooper DeJean, Nakobe Dean, Derek Hall. Is it Goofy, and Kenneth Walker III. And so, I know this is one of the most important drafts the Vikings have had, but I don't think that's really, I don't think that's an exaggeration. I don't think that's overblown or hype. I think, as you know, Tim, don't we also have one of the older rosters too, with a lot of players that are, as the phrase I was,
because we haven't been hitting on draft picks,
right? Is they're a little long in the tooth, and so you've got a general manager who's acting general manager who's never been a general manager before. I don't know, I don't know if that makes a big difference when it comes to the draft, because I do truly believe that most of these picks, the decisions are going to be made by O'Connell, and I think with a lot of input from B-Flow, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, that's what if I'm the head coach, that's the way I'd maybe this is the wrong way to run a draft, but I'd say, I'll pick out the offensive guys that I think can help us. You pick out the defensive guys. And we'll meet in the middle. We'll decide, maybe we'll do a rock, paper, scissors to see if we go offense or defense. But I trust your judgment on the defensive players that fit your system. That's what you and again, you might miss because not even the best draft nicks can pick the correct player every time. But I'd still want the guy that's going to put the defense together, that knows his plan, his system, knows the players that best fit that. For instance, I would think when they signed Orlando Pace, what's the kid's name?
I'm going to say Orlando Pace.
Yeah, no.
Former left tackle.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about Ivan
Pace.
Ivan Pace. He was an undrafted free agent. Now, I think his rookie year, is he going into his third year? His rookie year was pretty darn good, and last year wasn't as good, or do I have that wrong? I just feel like we were excited about him the first year, and then after that, not so much. But I
feel like he's played 3 years.
3 years?
But I'll find out.
My guess is...
this will be the fourth season.
And my guess is, and it's just a guess, that B-Flow had something to say about that. I'm sure he probably said, hey, now we're doing the, signing undrafted free agency if they can make the club. We're looking for the next John Randall. Good luck with that. But I think Ivan Pace fits what I like to do. And again, you're not going to hit it, but that's what I would want. I'd want to let my defensive guy handle it, and me, the offensive coach, I'll handle that. I don't know where that leaves you with the general manager. Like you said, though, and you're right, when these guys are coaching games every week, they're not sitting on Saturdays watching the SEC game of the week and taking notes on these guys, right? So they have to depend upon...
They've been studying like the last 2 months.
Yes. So they have to...
Like Meat Sauce has been.
Exactly. Matter of fact, maybe they should rely on Meat Sauce. Should he be allowed in the war room? Lucky.
Well, Meat Sauce just tweeted after watching Dylan Thieneman on YouTube. He wants them to take Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon.
Okay. Now,
watch some YouTube highlights.
Well, and here's this. This is where he didn't watch any highlights. He just sees everybody going with Thieneman, so it's the safe. He took it. It's from working with Rosen all those years. It's right out of the Mark Rosen sports is your whole life just sports playbook. Everybody's talking about Thieneman, So it's safe to just say, I think they ought to draft Thieneman. Then, if he hits, it's you were with everybody
you're a
else.
Genius, yeah.
Yeah, and then if he doesn't, well, you go, well, everybody thought he was
conventional wisdom.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. He has never watched Thieneman. He couldn't pronounce his name. Meat Sauce, I'm not saying he's as big a fraud as Rosen, but he's in the same neighborhood. I don't think there's any question.
He couldn't even pick out Oregon on a map.
No. Oregon or Oregon. So, do you think he even knows what the Lewis and Clark expedition is? I don't think he probably does.
By the way, when I was a kid, like one of the most, and for my generation, one of the most popular, like first ever video games on a computer was the Oregon Trail.
Right.
But it was called Oregon Trail, which is why I always thought it was Oregon.
Right.
And now everyone calls it Oregon.
The Oregon. That's exactly
But it was
right.
called the Oregon Trail.
And speaking of being a kid, you know how your tastes change as you get older?
Yeah.
I used to never like spankings. Here's a text message that came into the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. It says, I'm sorry. People really care this much about the draft? Get a life. It's one dude going up to a podium and calling another dude's name. You can go over all the charts, all the mock drafts. That doesn't mean every player will hit. That doesn't mean every guy will make the team, stay on the team, etc. Now there's a countdown 6 weeks before the draft starts. Get a life. I don't necessarily want to tell people to get a life, but I made the statement earlier in the show to start the day. I was talking about it with Abbott and Lil B before the show. What do you got today? And then all of a sudden Abbott goes, so what do you got today? And the first thing he hears Lil B going, oh boy. Because she knows my answer is going to be, I got nothing. And then Abbott's going to be annoyed.
Yeah.
Right? And then she said, talk about the draft. Because the draft right now, our streaming numbers, everybody's tuning in now. They all want to hear about the draft. And so I sort of kind of this one says, Sauce ripped Thieneman this morning. And somebody else said the same thing.
Love that one.
He said after he it's just this one. It says after he ripped it this morning.
Maybe it was a joke online then in reference to. I didn't listen to the show this morning, so
yeah. But so when he says get a life and people do care this much about it. They really do. Look, how many times have we had the discussion? The NFL is king, and they are. They have figured out a formula that I think a lot of it has to do is it's just once a week. Every game seems to have so much more importance. When you're in the NBA, the NHL, and Major League Baseball, I know game one in the Major League Baseball season, it counts in the standings as much as game 162 and everything in between. We all know that. But the NFL, because it's once a week, it just seems, and there's only, are we at 18 games yet, or are they still talking about that? We're at 17.
17 for now.
17 for
I think
now.
it's going to be 18 within the next year or two.
So, with only 17 games and there's a lead up each week, I've talked to you about this before, and I've talked about it on the air, I'm sure, where it's the perfect sports talk radio sport.
Oh, yeah.
Because you talk about the results on Monday and Tuesday from Sunday's game. Then Wednesday's transition, still a little bit of what happened. Now you're starting to look ahead. Thursday, Friday is the look ahead of the game. They play on Sunday, and then it's, what is it called? Wash, lather, rinse, repeat, and you just do the same thing. And the other thing is, like in hockey and basketball, and especially in hockey and basketball, it's such a flow of the game. It goes back and forth. It's hard to pinpoint one play generally that, this was the critical. Whereas in football, there can be one, we've had, you and I have debated this before, where the coach will call a pitch out and they'll fumble it, and you can decide, why is he trying to pitch it there? Just hand the ball off. We're in scoring range. You don't need to try to get clever now. And everybody says, no, I kind of like that. I like when we're keeping them guessing on. And you can discuss that for 3 hours on a Monday and 3 hours on a Tuesday.
Within the play, let's say you have a 2-point conversion to win the game and you get stopped.
Yeah.
Within that play, we could have a discussion on the quarterback made a bad throw, The quarterback didn't have enough time. The offensive line didn't give him enough time. The wide receivers didn't get open. Bad play call by the offensive coordinator, right? So you can come up with
that's exactly
4 different excuses within, and then we can all have a debate about what was the rationale, why they screwed that play up.
That's
just that one play.
That's exactly right. And so that's why there is interest in the draft.
And then on top of that, you were like, well, if the defense hadn't given up 21 points in the first half, we wouldn't be in that position anyway.
That's exactly right. Well, here's another prime example. It was one Chicago Bear punt return that kept the Vikings from making the playoffs. No, it wasn't. It was losing a bunch of other games to terrible teams in terrible cities with terrible fans and terrible stadiums. And some of those teams you were playing at the end of the year, they were just as bad as you were, if not worse. And then one team, Green Bay, was resting all its starters. There are so many, what's the word I'm looking for? Variables that can change the outcomes of games. But that's why I think a lot of people care about because it can change your franchise forever. Particularly, look at the Bears with, what's their quarterback's name again? Williams?
Caleb
Williams. First year he wasn't very good, but it seems like he was with a coach and a system they don't. Now he looks like he's a really good quarterback. That if he continues on that trajectory, Tenneby, he could make the Bears a contending team for the next 10, 12 years. And if Kyler Murray or Kyle Murphy or 9 don't play the kind of winning football that leads to successful season after season and maybe even a chance at making a run through the playoffs, you set your franchise back into the 3, 5, 8 years. So the draft is important. Now, here, there's only one quarterback that's even considered worth drafting high, and that's the first guy. The Mendoza kid from Indiana is going to go number 1, and after that, I don't know if will another quarterback go in the first round?
It's possible. I think Ty Simpson could go. He's out of Alabama, like very late in the first round. It's possible like a Cardinals jumps out, trades up from the beginning of the second round into just so they can get that 5th-year option thing going on with a quarterback.
Yeah, 5th-year option, right. So,
but other than that,
I share the text messengers. I don't know if he's angry about it, the get a life. I don't mind. Look at everybody's. Some people would say, why do you get up at 5:30 in the morning to play golf every day? Why do you do that? Get a life, right? Some people get up I know people that get up at they'll wake up at 12:30 in the morning. They'll go to their phone and play Wordle. That's how hooked they are on Wordle. They'll actually do that, okay? And so I would
get a life
or get some sleep, one or the other, right? And so I'm the same way. But I talked about at the beginning when the draft. Generally, the golf opener's always been draft weekend. This year we've moved the golf opener so the power trip can be included. So we're doing tee to green. It's a big weekend. We're doing the power trip Thursday night off air initials game. Then they're going to do their show Friday with the initials game. I'm going to do tee to green on Saturday. It's the golf opener. People playing golf all over. We'll have the tailgate party with the pig roast and a live band and all that. We're doing it all in one weekend. But under normal circumstances, we'd have it on in the room. We'd have the draft. I'd pay attention to it. Now that I'm at home for the draft tomorrow night, I'll have it on, but muted or down real low, and I'll wait till it's Lions and Vikings. They're back to back. Those are the picks I care about. Some people care more about it. And I think part of the reason is football has a real hold on the sporting public, and the draft can make all the difference in the world for a team. It can change the trajectory of the franchise depending upon the players they select. If you get a future Hall of Famer or two, it can change the history of your franchise and how good they can be. That's why people care. But I'm the same way. I don't read the mock drafts. I don't, because nobody knows. Nobody knows. You have an idea who the best 100 players are in the draft, particularly that best 30 or 40 best players available. And they'll probably all go, but they are not going to go to the teams that people are predicting. We've done that before where we've looked back. I don't know. It seems like it's too much work, as you know me, work. But when you go back and you look at all the mock drafts, take 10 of them, and then after the first day, go back and look, how many do you think are spot on? Maybe of the 32 picks, they got 10 right? Would that be a high percentage, or is it more than that? Because all it takes is one trade to throw everything off.
Yeah.
If the team selecting 5th trades back to 26, well, now 26 moves up to 5. 26 probably moved up because they have a different need than everybody thought 5 did. It's so... but it's killed a number of segments today, and that's what's that I'm happy about. So Wild tonight, 8:50, you say?
Yeah,
Is when the face-off
7 o'clock extended pregame,
and then Wolves tomorrow night.
They're tomorrow night. So I think on the Fan tomorrow night it'll be NFL draft coverage, and then you can go to the Wolves playoff game in progress. Though, of course, you can also listen to the entire game on the iHeartRadio app on the Wolves channel.
Remind me, are all the Wild games on FanDuel?
I believe so. I haven't. I think
is that
so.
will that be good for every round, or
Usually just the first round?
Yeah, because I was going to say if they get to the let's say get to the Western Conference.
I found it funny the other night because they were on FanDuel Sports Network and ESPN, and there were many people tweeting, complaining about the broadcasters on ESPN and how they favor the Dallas Stars. I'm like, there's literally a local broadcast.
Yeah.
If you want the local Homer broadcast, it's available, guys. It's FanDuel Sports Network.
And have you ever noticed that? And this is probably for any fan of a specific team, if their team is on a national broadcast, they always think their team's getting slighted. It doesn't matter. They always think their team's not being given enough credit. It could just be your team doesn't deserve that much credit. Not in every case, but sometimes that's...
Well, the other night I saw some Denver Nuggets fans complaining about, does this national guy, he's got a bias towards the Wolves, and come to find out, well, yeah, he used to be the Wolves play-by-play guy. So
Grady. Was that
yeah.
Tenneby, you did a great job today, and thanks for having me.
Hey, great job.
You too. We'll be back tomorrow, 12 noon. We enjoyed hanging out with you today. But stick around. Big Ticket, JG, they're up next. Here, we affectionately call Da Fan.
Good night. Good morning. Good afternoon. And good night, Minnesota.
Good night, folks. And good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.